Wi-Fi. Yes, correct. Okay. Reload. Seems up. Pop out the chat. Oh, I forgot to turn off the sound on. Seems up. The Twitch. Wish there was some way to do all these before going online, but there isn't, it seems. Font size up. Seems we're okay. Everything looks green. Somebody's there. Good morning. So something must be all ready. Okay. Let's do this thing. Mic in, mic clip. Okay. And away we go. Cold, cold, rainy day here in Tokyo. Let's go. I'll stop short of that line here because I want to put this one in first. Come back and tee it off. Good morning, everybody. More dots and suckers today again. Maybe we're about halfway through them. I don't know. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 tentacles done. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're about maybe halfway through those things. I don't know. Shouldn't count about that too much. Just do the day's work. Which way around? Let's start which way? Let's start at this end, work our way down. See, people are letting everybody know where they're on. When I've been reading these streams after the sessions are over, yesterday's were long. One of the fun parts is seeing where everybody is, of course. And there's another curious thing about those times and places that people are showing is that I assumed always that these morning sessions for me would be North American viewers pretty much exclusively, but it's not. It's also European viewers, people that are up late at night. And then the other way around too, the evening sessions I've done the last couple of days, or late afternoon here, has also been full of people who are supposed to be asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff. So I'm learning this Twitch community is, there must be a lot of people using their computers and stuff late at night. Curious about this, there's a line there, all the rest of these suckers are all in a row in pairs going down. Why does that one pair have a line between it? Maybe just he felt the gap was too big and it looked a bit funny, I don't know. We'll carve it, I think, This group right here, these are the largest suckers on the print. Actually, it's right in the middle of the field of view. Right in the center of the print. I'd be careful, make sure I get the good, nice, clean curves. I guess you notice the patch here, the cover for a certain part of the image. And I still really don't know how we're going to handle this as we move forward. Is this okay or not for Twitch? I don't know. I'm not sure if I should write to them, try and find a human being there to talk to clarify this. Because we can get away with this at this part, but once I start, doing the color separation work, for example, and then the printing, we're going to be working with full sheets, and the full image is going to be in view all the time. So I'd like to get a clarification whether, this is okay. Or at some point, I'd sure hate to move forward that far and then just find that they're going to shut it down or something. Alright, for now, no problem. We'll just keep it patched. Okay, let's come back up the other side. Doesn't want to come out a bit too deep there. Right. the eyes here. This is an octopus eye, of course. And there's another one slightly covered up because it's close to the dangerous zone. Let's see. It's okay. Still now and then get struck by how kind of bizarre this is, what we're doing, you know. The guy sitting here at the desk in Tokyo carving octopus suckers. People all over the world sitting there watching. I mean, what are we doing? They'll be a good, I don't know, what's the word, highlight reel. You really think forward when this print is finished, you know. There's going to be just such a great process video we're going to be able to make because I've got such a lot of footage to pick from, you know. It's too bad I wasn't doing this right from the very beginning, showing the part that I traced and stuff like that. But maybe I could backtrack and do a sample of some of that later. So that by the time this print is finished, we'll be able to make a compact video just showing a little bit of each and every stage all the way up at such high resolution. It'll be a perfect documentation of the finished product, you know. And when I'm doing all the color separations and all the stages all the way along, we're going to have a really good record of it. The people were asking, you know, all the way along here about what I'm going to do with the video. And again, I talked about this last night, but just to let everybody know what's going on, Twitch is keeping it for 14 days, but I'm archiving all this stuff now so that we can pull highlights from it later. And we're also keeping the chat logs. Years ago when I was just starting this, my God, I would have killed for such video, you know, to be able to see that. Oh, there we go. Some kind of question is there. Just a sec. Find my glasses. Question here. It's a multi-part question, but the person's asking about, you know, what about the angle of the knife and stuff in here? How technical to get and how general to keep it and how historical and The quick and easy answer is that I'll just go here for show. When we're cutting these lines, I don't know what the number of the angle is, but it's not 90. If I was up straight, it would be 90, and the lines would be too steep, really in danger of breaking. This is just sort of a generic angle that's formed naturally by my hand and the knife going in like this. What is this, 15, 20 degrees, something like this? I don't know. And these days, most people carve to leave an angle like that. The people who learn here traditionally, my friend Asuka Sensei, whatever, he's carving on the outside of his hand. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it, I guess. He's looking over the back of his hand and holding the knife outside. And that means his angle is a bit, I'll exaggerate this, his angle is somewhat lower than mine. His is like that. In my case, I'm using a right-handed knife, my left hand, but I'm looking down over my hand rather than out over the back of my hand. And it's sort of the same angle, but I guess his is a bit lower. But in the old days, that's not how they did it. I know. Not quite sure how to explain in this small field of view here. Just a second, let me finish this a little bit here, just a minute. Okay, let's get a line here. Let's turn this. Great. I'll turn that so that that line is completely horizontal to me now. I'm here looking forward, and that line's horizontal. In the old days, the guy is carving like this. He's going to tip his hand and carve. I'm not going to do it, but he would carve along that line in this direction. Flat side of the blade on the line, but because he's looking over his hand, he can't do it 90 degrees. His hand tips to warn himself. So the knife really went at quite a strong angle. It's somewhere around 45 or so. So that line, once it's finished carving, would have an angle of 45 degrees. And there's something else I should mention too. He turns the block, before he starts carving, he turns the block so that the registration marks are away from him, up here somewhere. In other words, it's upside down. If it was this image, it would be upside down. And he carves all the horizontal lines at this angle, so that when you think about it later, when the printer is using the block, it would be rotated 190, and the printer would then be brushing up that line at the 45 degree angle. And that meant that the pigment smoothly went up that line and made it clean. I don't know if this is, this is the right place to try and explain these. Anyway, he's done the outside of that line. When he carved the inside of that line, he flips his hand up and looks from the bottom of his hand. This is not the place to do it, is it? The knife would end up being at this angle. This is just not the place to try and explain this. There's too narrow a field of view. It's just not the place to explain this. Long story short, in the old days, the lines were carved such that one side was a long, slow slope, and the other side was a sharp drop-off. I'll try and explain this later at some other time when there's a clearer field of view. These days we carve so that both sides are at an angle. In the old days it was one side shallow angle, one side drop-off. And it was much, much easier for the printers to print. The reason we don't do it that way is because it's much, much, much more difficult to carve that way. Really strictly trained people, okay. For us normal people these days, just not possible. I'm sorry to get confused. I shouldn't have started trying to explain this now. It's not the right time and place for it. There's stuff that, you need illustrations and something to try and explain properly. the angle of the knife at this point, what I'm doing now, I'm clearing away junk. So whether this knife is steep or shallow or whatever makes no difference, because it's only contacting wood that's going to be taken away. Well, that was a disaster, Nay. Sorry about that. I'm trying to explain, whatever. Try and pick the time and place to explain different things, you know. I just seen the knife just there just now, pushing forward. It reminds me, last night, when I was archiving all these things, I downloaded them all from the Twitch website, everything we've done so far, throw them onto a big hard drive. After I downloaded them, I just randomly looked at a couple of the things that we've done here in the past week, these streams, just to see what they look like. You know, I've never seen them actually from my side. And I remember at one of the points in these chats, sometime last week, somebody mentioned, oh my God, I can't bear to watch this. It looks like he's going to cut himself, or he looks like he's going to on a break at any minute. And then the person felt that there was kind of a lot of tension there. Oh my God, it's difficult to watch. And at the time when I read that comment last week, I'm like, you know, whatever. There's not so much tension for me here. You know, I know where I am. I know what I'm doing. You know. But funnily enough, last night when I was watching little snips of this, I'm at one of these places pushing forward with my knife, and I felt that tension. I felt, oh my God, no, it's going to cut. It's okay. Even though it was me and I knew it wasn't going to do anything, I'd already lived that scene. I knew it was okay. I still felt that. That's a really enlightening moment for me, the fact that what I see and what you people at that end see are really quite different, you know. So I got to be more careful to try and think about how people are experiencing. And it made me think I could maybe play with this a little bit. I could dramatize more of this. Okay, here we go. This is a real tough one. Ready? Can I do this? Maybe get some string music in the background or something and diddle. Later on when we're editing this, you know. The way our brains work is so funny, you know. I knew it wasn't going to break, and yet I felt tension that it was, you know. I couldn't actually watch it for too long. I watched it for a few minutes, and then I felt I couldn't actually watch it for much longer, you know. I'm very, very curious now about what people are actually seeing and feeling. And another thing too is there was a lady here last night, just a customer lady in the shop, and she was watching by standing here, watching me do this, you know, watching the room view, you know. And I was talking to her as she's watching. And I think for somebody watching in real time here, seeing the full scale, it's less stressful, because the atmosphere in this room really is peaceful and quiet and, you know, whatever. But when you get this close-up tight view on this chisel, the mood changes, and it definitely seems a bit more stressed. Okay. All right, that's the insides. Let's do the outsides. Which way should I start here? Excuse me a second here, just a minute. Okay. Let's go down one side. Again, cut too deeply there at first. There you go, get it away. I always tend to cut too deeply on the outside of these things. Don't know why. That was someplace else I noticed when I was reviewing some of this last night. There's one place where I tried to cut left, cut right. The piece of wood didn't pop out, so I cut again, left, right. Still didn't pop out. The question? No. I will never complain about how long my carving is taking again. So it looks more tense and look tenser. So. But at that point, you're gonna. I don't know who's commenting right there. I will never complain again about how long. What did it say? Just a sec. I will never complain how long my carving is taking again. Well, there's an interesting point there to that. I know, because my carving bench here is at the back room of the shop. When people do come into the shop, this has been my experience the last week or so, you know, the shop staff out there points them back here, you know, hey, if you want to see the carving right now, it's a chance, Dave's carving, where you go, you know, so the people look in at the door here, there's no door, it's just open. And I look up, yeah, go ahead, come in. So people come in and stand there and watch for a few minutes, you know. And I've over the years, of course, wherever I've been carving, there's been chances for people to see it. And I can't exaggerate this. I can't say everybody. Not everybody says the same thing. You know, people make different comments and they say different things. But a very, very, very common comment about this when people see this work is they can see the scale of a whole block, whatever I'm carving. So there's this piece of wood, and yet they can see the scale of the work, and it moves along, you know, actually sort of very slowly. During the 5 or 10 minutes that they stand there carving, I'm going to get, you know, as you can see right now, I'm going to get a very small amount of work done, it seems. So it's very, very common for people to say, boy, that's going to take a long time, isn't it? You know, or something to that effect. Wow, that's going to take a long time. And everybody says it with the same mood, meaning what I mean is they say, boy, that's going to take such a long time. And they say this in a sort of negative way. I don't mean that they're being negative towards me. I just mean that, wow, you're doing something so wonderful. It's because it's going to take such a long time, you know. And over the years after I heard these comments, it struck me that actually, for all of us now, that's a negative thing. When we say something is going to take a long time, it's almost always in a negative sense. And I'm not sure if that's something contemporary that our modern society has developed, or if it's just innate in human beings, or I don't know. But the idea has grown in all of us that if there's a task to be done and it takes a long time, then inherently that's something negative. But I've developed a sort of a stock answer to that. The people who talk about that, and whether I'm just convincing myself of this or whether this is something inherently true, it's up to you to decide. But what I'm now thinking to myself, and what I tell these people is, when they say that, it takes such a long time, doesn't it? And I say, yeah, but when you think about it, if you're involved in something you like doing, and if it's a pleasurable activity, then taking longer is better. And depending on the mood or who's in the room or what I feel like I'm allowed to joke about and say about, I said, imagine time with your girlfriend together, some things, when they take a long time, whatever. And then, whatever, equating my work with sex or something, I have no idea. But it's the point. If you're having fun, taking longer is better. So, and we're all on this ball of rock here for whatever X hours. We don't know how long it's going to be, but at the end of the time, when your time is used up and you're leaving, if there was some kind of accounting, the hours you've been alive, how many hours were pleasant hours, how many hours were difficult hours, in as much as there's a goal to all this, I guess there isn't, but in as much as we try and justify this or analyze it or think about it, whatever, a pleasant hour passed it's a win in the end, I think. There's no scorekeeping, there's no goal, but pleasant time passed is, there isn't anything other than that, is there? That's what it's about. This is a fun part, something like this actually too. It's not too tight to be stressful. Bit of variation, left, right. Curves are nice. Just curves are the inherently most pleasant part of this job. It's part of the Japanese thing, all those brush strokes. The brush moving along a curved sweeping line, and carving noses is the most satisfying part of this job. Hokusai doesn't give you a lot of that, he's such an energetic, frenetic guy. He jabs and bangs and slaps at the picture. when I did that 100 Poets series, it's Katsugawa Shunsho, it was from a different era. The original era was the generation or two before Hokusai, a generation before him. And it was more of a gentlemanly approach. Well, the theme was too, plus the designer. He was a much more of a gentleman type, clearly. So I spent 10 years carving one designer's work, Katsugawa Shunsho. And it was an elegant scale, ladies in long dresses, courtiers in elegant kimono. And it was, I didn't know at the time that I'd chosen it. It turned out to be such fabulous training, because everything was smooth curves, smooth curves, smooth curves, And I didn't know or feel or understand anything about that at the beginning, but as time went by and I got used to it and began to grow to understand what I was doing. And what a wonderful training it was, It's a kind of training that just doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, Now you go to school, whatever, and they give you a curriculum and you learn this and you do that or whatever, but without understanding what I had done, I'd given myself a sort of a master degree course in carving, just by setting a goal and doing it mindlessly at first, and then with more and more understanding as time went by. It might in some sense seem a bit of a waste. I spent 10 years making one print project, something that people even now are not specifically interested in. Was that a meaningful way to spend 10 years, And absolutely, absolutely. Without that 10 years, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now. It's just like the old days. You should think of the old days, like some kid goes for an apprenticeship, And what the numbers that's bandied around is 7 years and changes in different cultures and times. But you spend these X years as an apprentice, and then at some point you come out the other end as your own master. And without planning it, without thinking about it, without understanding it, that's actually what I did for myself. So. I can't imagine if somebody was here today knocking on the door, can I be your apprentice? Say, sure, okay, no problem. It's going to take 10 years, and here's what you're going to do the same thing for 10. It just doesn't work like that, does it? You can't do it to somebody else. It was possible to do it to myself, but it's just not possible to set it up as a structured thing, I'll keep away from that here. I'll do that all together later. The knife will have to be sharpened in a different way. So I'll leave those hairs alone for now. Maybe I should mention that whatever people out there who are viewing don't know that thing that I was just talking about. I'm sorry, I should have perhaps. On my website at woodblock.com, there's in fact, it's woodblock.com/poets. There's a section about the Hyakunin issue, which is the Japanese name for a set of 100 poems. And when I mentioned just now the 10-year project, what I had done was I made 100 prints, reproductions. I think somebody else had designed them. Reproductions of 100 prints. And they're views of the poets, imaginary views of the poets. So if you go to the section woodblock.com/poets, you'll see a link to a view where there's 50 people on a page and then 50 people on the next page. And you can see them all there right in front of you. 10 years of work. I did 10 a year for 10 years. A bit insane now that I think about it, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. And it was. I made a living. I brought my kids up, bought a house. Poetry is the most ambitious project. I don't know, I guess defines how you define the term. I know. It was the project that was certainly the most long term. I mean, when you sit down one day and then write a sort of pseudo press release announcing Canadian woodblock printmaker here in Japan announces a 10-year project, blah, blah, blah. And at that time I had only made one print. So in that sense, yeah, that's the most ambitious. The series that followed it, the Surimono albums, that was much more, I don't know, technically, I'm not sure if ambitious is the right word I'll use. It was much more biting off much more than I could chew technically, because the Poet series had all been one designer, one style, one type. So it was a bit, I don't know, it held me back a lot technically. It did a lot of good things for me. Made me semi-famous in Japan at that time. I started to get recognized on the street and stuff like that. But the Surimono albums, the 5-year project that followed it, was where I really learned how to do this craft. Because I chose, the idea about the Surimono albums was to choose 50 prints, one at a time, 10 a year for 5 years. And every single print was chosen with a specific, very targeted point of learning one specific technique of this. How to carve on boxwood, or how to do some specific kind of gradation, or how to do this or how to do that. How to work on scratch carving. There was 50 prints, all targeted at making me a better printmaker technically. And that was a much more ambitious project in that sense, because I took subscriptions for it. What I did was I made a sample print of the type I was thinking about making, put it up at the final exhibition of the Poets series and said, okay, here's what I'm going to do for the next 5 years. Come and join me if you will. And people subscribed, and I didn't show them, and I didn't even know myself at the time what prints would be coming up. I had the first 3 or 4 planned. And the rest were just, I was going to explore and make it up as I went along. And enough people subscribed that I was able to make a living at it. But it's like, it was, what's the word? It's like walking on a tightrope with no net. I was trying new techniques. Every month tried a new technique. Subscribers were waiting. So you got no net. If it turns out that, you know, how do I do this? Gee, I don't really actually know how to do this. I would have been in trouble. I got through it 5 years. It was wonderful having that kind of what's the word? I don't know, motivation. Having that kind of push. You have got to get going. You know, as soon as one print is finished, oh my God, I got 4 weeks to get the next one out the door. So maybe that was the single most, I don't know. Again, I don't know what word to use. You asked the question using the word ambitious. I don't know if ambitious, whatever. But it's always been like, you know, once finished, bang, that's it. Just jump into something else, you know. I can't sit still. It's obviously in my DNA, you know. I'm 65 this year. I just became 65 last autumn, and you're supposed to like sort of think about golf and beach and stuff, and I just can't do that. It's a bug or a feature, I don't know, but some of these will certainly need trimming after the test printing makes it visible, you know. There's no way I can clean them up at this point. The first cut is in, but the first cut damages the paper on the top of the surface, so it's not quite clear where the edge is anymore. But after the carving is finished, you wash the paper all off to a test printing, then everything jumps into focus, and you can see which ones are clumsy. You can't put any wood back, but you can trim them and clean them and adjust curves. So lots of this is going to get touched up a couple of weeks down the road. There's the question tone. Just a sec here. Got too much there. I always do that kind of point. There we go. Has the stream been starting and stopping for anyone else? Let me have a look at my streaming software here. Hang on a sec. Dropped frames are 0. So I think at this end it seems to be going out, as far as I can tell. Okay, over to the question here. What does it say? It wasn't a question. Thank you, sir. Actually, I get the other, completely a comment the other way around. The gentleman's commenting about my beard as it is. And it's funny you mention that. I don't know if I should mention this or not. I guess I can go for it, whatever. This is a positive comment. I know somebody is being kind and polite about whatever. You got a great beard, Dave, whatever it says. I know this morning, YouTube gives me a feed of all the comments that are coming in across all the different videos that are there. You know, I can't go to each video and check and read the comments. I like to answer questions and stuff like that. But with 80 or 90, whatever it is, videos up on the channel, you can't take the time, or I can't take the time to go and peruse each one. But YouTube has a setting that says send me, you know, a notification about the comments. Send me the comments. And it doesn't actually do that all the time. It sends a selection of them. And I'm really a bit sad about that because I want to respond to questions and feedback and stuff. But whatever, can't be helped. YouTube just doesn't do that. But I get a selection. And last night there was one that came in and I thought, what? And when I clicked and read it, it was very rare for me, a very, very, very negative comment about my personal experience, my personal appearance, as in hair, clothes, beard, fingernails, you name it. It just listed on and on and on, and it was whatever. Everybody's got a different viewpoint about these things. I was a bit curious as why would somebody feel so strongly about that to write such a long, and it was quite a long and wordy comment. You know? And whatever, there's different viewpoints. So seeing that comment now, somebody's has a positive impression or viewpoint or whatever about some aspect of my appearance and self. It's very curious. You know, what are we supposed to do? Are you going to please everybody, or you can't please everybody, or try and conform to general social norms, I guess. And that's where I fall down a bit, because I don't take care of my appearance to the extent that most people do, I guess. I don't know. The staff here, they joke that I'm just like Steve Jobs. I have 3 shirts. We have a washing machine upstairs, you know, and Dave has 3 shirts. 2 of them are hanging up there right now. I'm wearing one. And we just go around. Once 2 are dirty, they go in the washing machine. I wear the 3rd one. The next day I start again with number 1. Then it's the same. There's 2 pairs of jeans. When one gets a bit dirty, the other one goes in the washing machine. So it's a rotation. And my girlfriend buys me a new pair of jeans every year for my birthday, whether I need it or not. And that goes into the rotation and an old one comes out. And I know. I just don't know. Hey, whatever. So there's a couple of ways to think about that kind of behavior, you know. The way that I would like to think about it myself, I'm laughing here as I say this, the way I would like to think about it myself is, I'm not pretentious and stuff, you know, just the clothes, I don't care, whatever comes, you know, all these people who spend all their time and energy worrying about clothes and blah, 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 blah. But I'm the same as anybody else, chosen the path I've got. I'm just as pretentious as anybody else, or you're consciously or subconsciously you're trying to put out a certain image. So some person's image might be, look at how fancy a dude I am, and Dave's image is, look how fancy a dude I'm not, or, you know, whatever. But it's the same thing at heart, isn't it? So I don't know, that guy's comment last night was pretty strongly worded. And whatever, you know. Can't get worried about it. That's another thing too about these comments, is that if you want to be intellectually honest with yourself, somebody makes a nice comment, and I sit there and bask in it. Yeah, thank you. I'm so good. I'm great. Wonderful. Yes, thank you. Good. You appreciate how wonderful I am. If you do that to yourself mentally, then if you're going to be intellectually honest, you have to do the same thing with the negative comments. You can't just pick and choose. You can't cherry pick. If you're going to bask in the praise, you're going to have to accept that some people are not going to praise you, Okay, where am I? Rambling too much, but where am I? Those suckers are done. Okay, next is the gap here. We've got a line with dots. So let's first make sure the line is cut cleanly. That's a bit hard. You can see it's a bit redder in color. The redder parts are the harder parts. You really have to be careful. It'll chip so easily. Let's cut that a bit deeper. Sorry about the spinning a bit too much here. It'll stabilize in a minute when I start cutting those dots. We've had comments that people get seasick, not seasick, what's the word? I don't know, dizzy, when I spin the block too much. I guess some people are watching on quite a large screen. And then here, I'm going to turn it. And then when the thing suddenly swings and swings and swings in front of them on this big large screen, it's like sitting in a roller coaster or something. I hadn't really thought about that when I started the streaming, but it seems it's a factor. I think that'll change when we're at a different stage of this job and it's not focused in quite so tightly. When I'm doing the larger clearing with the chisel, or when I'm doing color separations, and certainly when I'm doing printing, it'll be a different mood. But right now, because we're such tight focus, any movement of this wood, I guess, swings your entire field of view out there. It does to me too, but I'm the driver. I know what's going on. It's like a driver of a car. It doesn't matter about the bumps, but the passenger feels them. So yeah, take your seasick pills before you come on to the woodblock webcam here. Negatives and positives, actually, I'm not worried about a bad comment. I know. An interesting example, the woman down the street from me here, Yoshimi-san, she runs a cooking class. We have, our print parties, and she runs cooking class, and quite often her customers come here and our customers go there and whatever. And there's TripAdvisor reviews. You know how TripAdvisor works. There's good reviews and bad reviews and stuff. And her cooking class is really, really well done. I haven't done it myself, but I hear, not daily, almost daily, three, 4 times a week, people who come here for an afternoon session here have done her cooking class in the morning. And they are just always, oh my God, I had so much fun, I was going to die laughing, and this and that and this and that and this and that. So yeah, she's doing well at her job. To the story, she gets reviews on TripAdvisor way more than we do. She's like up to 150 reviews or something. And they're 5-star, 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 5-star. And one of the reviews, one of them is less than 5 stars. I guess it's 4, maybe it's 3 or something. I don't really know. 4 maybe. And that one review sticks out. When you go to the TripAdvisor website and look up her page, then you'll see all the 5-star reviews, it's listed, and then one at 4. So what do? You click on the for. You know, what's wrong? What's so special about this? What trouble is there? And you click on that 4-star review, and I forget the exact wording, but something like this: says, "Oh, Yoshimi was a wonderful host. She made beautiful food for us. We had a really good time. Blah, 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 blah. Great, great, great. Good view from her window, and we enjoyed the food." Click out. In other words, nothing specifically bad, but I guess that person's policy was that they don't do 5s, they only do 4. So the point I'm saying was that by reading the worst review on her website, you can understand that this woman is doing a pretty good job. I mean, if that's the worst review, then yeah, she's obviously okay. So, for me, that guy who wrote that bad review on my YouTube channel, whatever, go for it. I know if somebody picks it up and decides to read it, what's going wrong with Dave, whatever, then I'm not too worried about it. The guy's complaining about my haircut, you know. I don't care. And I think most people too, if they saw that review, oh geez, if that's all he's worried about, who cares, you know. Or people who agree with him, whatever. So I'm not too worried about it. I don't take down bad reviews or bad comments, just leave it. Everybody makes up their own mind. I think I heard the question sound, right? I heard the sound, but nothing in the question. Oh, here it is. Yes, it is. Just a sec. Come on, machine. Oh, a long comment. I know, blah, 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 blah. Interview request. Okay, this is something I'll have to answer you personally later. This is not a question for the chat right now. So, okay, get back to you later after this is over. Oh, I'm lost. Where am I? How's our time doing, by the way? 9 o'clock. Look at that. We've used up 2/3 of our time. You know. Yeah, it should be okay today. I know yesterday and the day before, I was actually shop staff myself. I was assigned to shop duty. So when the shop opened at 9:30, I had to really move along and get out of here. But today, Kawai-san's here. He's been off for summer vacation for the past week, but he's a good, competent one. So yesterday I was here together with Matsumura-kun, who's still a newbie. He's one of the 2 new staff that we took on with the Patreon funds. He's working out okay, but he certainly still can't do stuff by himself. And we had a print party at 10 yesterday, so I had to jump on it. There's a party at 10 today too, but Kawai-san is totally competent for it. So that's a fun one too. I don't know if I can talk about somebody else. I have to be careful about this. I think it's because it's positive, it's okay. There's a young guy working for us now. His name is Kawai-san. He's been doing parties with me for a year, I guess. And he's now doing them by himself. And he's been similar to me when I was younger, in that when he came here, he was really a bit shy, couldn't talk to people well. I know it's understandable. His English is his second language. It's not so great, and here he was all of a sudden having to talk to people. So anyway, he was kind of a bit hesitant and shy and not so forthright and whatever. Nothing negative, just that was his character. But the guy has changed over the past year now. He's watched me dance around and make an idiot of myself in the print parties, and he's realized that the stuff here isn't so formal, and that the main idea is to enjoy ourselves and do our job well, but don't sweat it. And when you screw up, just apologize for it and move forward, and it's not the end of your life when you make a mistake. And he's totally changed now. He's a year older in age, but he's 10 years more mature now. And it's been so much fun watching this change. And now we get reviews. You know, people, I get emails from somebody, whatever, they did a print party with him a few days ago, and they said, "Hey, I got to tell you, Dave, please say thanks to Kawai-san for us, you know." we had such a good time, you know. And that's so pleasing, you know, to be a little bit part of helping somebody, you know, enjoy their own life and grow up. And again, I think I heard the sound there, so. Where am I here? Question. Oh, short. I forgot, I was laughing too much. I forgot the first part of the question. Just a sec here. Where am I? Get back to this. After you test print the block, you will have to recarve certain areas. I was talking about this, yes. I was wondering if the ink on the block would make it harder to carve or not. There's no actual ink on the block here. What you're seeing as I'm carving here is you're seeing a laser printed design. Maybe I can get here. Got an example. Again, field of view. Let's try an experiment. I haven't done this before. Let's try this. To interrupt my carving for a moment, I'm going to switch the camera view so that this is the main view. Whoa, I don't know where to look, whatever. Anyway, she's asking about the ink on the block that I'm carving. Here's our laminated paper, piece of normal copy paper with the thin Japanese gumpy paper attached to it by spray glue. This has been then, this is top secret. This is the November design for the yokai series. It's a misregistered hunched up drawing. Anyway, Jed sends me the design, we get all ready. I've printed out through this thing on a laser printer. This thin paper won't possibly go through the laser by itself. So bond it, throw it through. But that then goes onto a piece of wood, glue on the piece of wood, paste it down, peel off the copy paper, and this now, it's thin Japanese paper. It's thin like tissue paper. What do I say? It's thin. And this is a laser printed thing. So it's laser toner on a piece of paper. It gets pasted face down onto the wood. And that's what I'm doing here. The design we're doing here is the laser paper has been pasted face down, and then with my finger on the back, rub. Let's see. So you can see scraps. There's the paper scraps still left over in the area that I don't care about, and in the area where I'm carving, I've rubbed most of the paper off the back. So what you're seeing is laser toner glued with a light glue onto the surface of the wood. So I'm carving it. Let me switch the view back here. I got to get some more camera setups like this. Got to learn how to use this. Switch back. Wow, I'm a production studio. Where am I? So the blackness you're seeing here, right here, the blackness you're seeing is the laser toner glued to the block with a very fine, almost, can I scrape off here? Look at this. There's a tiny little bit of that paper still left. Anyway, long story short, the lady's asking, is this stuff getting in the way? No, because once I'm finished carving here, I get a spray bottle of water, spray it all over this block, get my toothbrush out, or a little bit of a bigger brush. I just wash it. And all that laser toner just washes straight off. So I'm left then with a carved block that's just wood. It doesn't look black at that point. It just looks like a woody color. You'll see this when I'm at that point in a couple of weeks from now. A couple of weeks from now, I guess so. And then it's really difficult to see because there's no black anymore. It's just wood. So there's high parts and low parts, and it's all just wood. So that's the point when printing starts, test printing starts. You'll see I'll splash black ink all over the whole thing, throw a piece of paper on top, and print it. And looking at the print will show me, okay, that dot's too big, that curve has got a bit of a bump in it. There we go. And I'll inspect every dot and every line on the whole thing at that point. And make adjustments. Well, I can't make lines fatter at that point. When wood is gone, wood is gone. But I can adjust curves to make them smoother. I can, you can cut things down to make it a bit more attractive. And if it turns out that oh my God, there's something big that I cut away by mistake, which has happened, then it'll be time to get plugging. Plug a piece of wood in and recut. And we'll see all that stuff as we get there. I guess that's too long of an answer to a simple question. The black stuff washes off with no problem. But again, I heard the sound. Let's see, where are we? Oh, I'm in the wrong window now. Twitch questions. What gave you the idea to utilize social media? YouTube, blah, 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 blah. How does it feel to engage with fans? We were talking about this the other day, actually, and this is not something new for me. And I think I covered this in one of the YouTube videos. And the statement I'm going to make right now, you may feel doesn't quite make sense. But I'm going to make the statement that I've been using social media to discuss my work since 1989. And the obvious answer to that is, what am I talking about? The internet. When did we come on? I came on the net, I think, in 1997. I got woodblock.com, I forget. I've been on the net 20 years now. I'm older than Google. Don't quite have their monetization, but I've been here longer than Google. Anyway, to explain what I mean, social media. When I started that poet series, the thing I was talking about a few minutes ago, if you were listening back then, I knew right away that there's two aspects to try to make a living about doing this. One is making good stuff, the production side. And second was, whatever you've got to have people who are interested in owning it. In simple words, selling. You have to make it and other people have to buy it. And both of those things have to be true if your goal is to sort of make a living at doing something. And I was clear at that at the beginning. I didn't want to do this as a hobby or as a recluse. I wanted to do it all day full time, which means you got to have people interested in your stuff. So right from the very beginning, when I started the poet series, step one was I started a newsletter. There was no internet. It was a paper publication. We took photographs of different parts of the work. I visited some of the craftsmen. The guy who prepared my the blocks for carving. I visited some of the people who were collecting my work. I wrote about the historical aspects of the book I was reproducing. I made it a little magazine, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And I published it 4 times a year, and I did that for 25 years. And it went to the people who were collecting my work. It went to anybody who had expressed any interest in it. It went to the media. I sent it to newspapers, magazines, radio programs. I spent an absolute fortune on it. This is printed. There's no Macintosh for layout. This was typeset stuff with photographs put in with red rubylith strip film. I did it all by myself. It took weeks out of the schedule. I did it 4 times a year, quarterly. And it worked great. Every time a new issue went out, there was another burst of publicity and more stuff, and maybe somebody would order a print, and people would make suggestions on what to feature in the next issue, or they'd say, can I get an extra copy to pass to one of my friends? Hit the share button. And of course I didn't use the term social media, but in retrospect, that's exactly what I did. Get out there, share what you're doing, try and encourage people to look at it and tell their friends about it. So when the net came along, I jumped on it with a ton of bricks. As I said, I'm there. In 1996 I got online, but 1997 I think was the first website. I started a group called the Barron Forum, which was a forum for discussing woodblock printmaking aspects, and it grew like to hundreds of people within a couple of years. It started eating my life. I had to pass it on to public ownership. So whatever, long answer to a short question, this has always been extremely important to me. Very much so. I think it's, in a sense, it's more important than the work itself. If that sounds a bit bizarre, I'm sorry, just a minute. Somebody chatting with me here in the shop talked about this, I think I had done, it was when the Patreon started a few months ago. He had become a Patreon member, and he was in the shop on a visit, and he mentioned, so I'm thanking him, thank you very much for supporting that. And he says, yeah, no, as soon as you did that, I had to jump on. The point of his conversation was, he said something like, I forget, he started or I started, I can't remember, but he said something like, how many prints have you sent out over the years, Dave, Actually, there's a button on my website to do that. You can click on each of the print series I made and see how many people got them and stuff like that. And I answered, I don't know, it's about whatever, 30,000 or 40,000 prints or something. And this was myself personally before we opened this Mokuhankan thing with the heroes and stuff. And he said, okay, so that's your output. You've sent out 40,000 physical pieces of paper to people. And he said, I suppose that's your legacy, right? And he was sort of half laughing at me because he knew how I was going to answer. I said, yeah, I think I made a lot of people happy. Those 40,000 pieces of paper are going to float around the world, and you know how long they last, a couple hundred years, and people won't throw them away, and it's a pretty nice legacy. And he says, and his point, which he'd been waiting for me to stop talking so he could reply to, he says, that Dave, that's not your legacy at all, not even close. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I made those prints. They're there. That's what I do. I'm a printmaker, And he said, yeah, I get the idea. That's what you think you are. But he said, unfortunately, things have changed in the world these days. It's 9:30. Oh, Christ, look at this. Here we go. Anyway, let's keep going. I got these dots to finish anyway. Where was it? He's saying, yeah, no, you're 40,000 prints or so out there in the world. And he said, that's not even remotely close. Then you've got 40,000 people who will be able to see those. And he said, tell me about your YouTube views recently. And I'm like, I see where he's going with this. And I'm a bit ambivalent about this, and I have mixed feelings about this. And his point, which we can get to obviously clearly, is that the thing that I'm leaving behind, or the more impact that I'm having, is not the actual physical prints that I physically made myself, but the information that I've put out there and the enthusiasm that I've engendered in this craft all over the world. And sorry about the ringing. They're fixing the stairwell, putting the flag up, getting the plants ready and stuff like that. So, good morning. Hello. Just so you know, you're live again. Don't say anything. So,
I listen to your story.
You're watching.
You are very amazing. I'm grew up. I listen.
Oh, I was talking about you.
I'm in the coffee shop. I listen.
Oh, am I in trouble or what? Shit, what did I say? This is how I sound. This is the young man I was talking about 10 minutes ago. He was listening to this.
Yeah, listen. I'm in the coffee shop. David's talking about it.
I never thought about that. No, I guess, okay, I didn't say anything bad. I really have to be, what's the rule? You don't talk about somebody behind their back. It's sort of a basic rule about human nature. Okay, I guess it's okay. All right, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, thank you for the work you're doing here. Thank you. So, how stupid can I be? Of course, I should have realized, you're on the way. Soka. Say hello.
I'm kawaii.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. Did I say anything about Matsumura-san?
What are you talking about?
It's okay. If you don't know, you don't know. It's all right. Okay. Sorry, don't worry. Look at that. Yeah. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. I never even realized that. Chatting about the guy, and he's listening to it live in the coffee shop, having his breakfast, Ah, well. Actually, okay, I can add a postscript to that story about him, and whatever, he's not listening now, but he may listen to it later. But there's a postscript, I said, that the young man had been pretty shy and that he was now coming out of his shell and growing and getting more mature. And there's a postscript, the place where he used to work as a printer in another workshop, he had found a lot of stress there, and he'd basically quit this whole business. And we had heard about him. We'd been looking for staff a year ago, whatever. I approached him. I really wasn't happy about the fact that he was so shy and withdrawn, but we gave him a try. And as I said, it's turned out well. He's grown and become more mature. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is right now is that about 2 months back or so, his previous employer, a lady, came here and said, we want Kawai-san back. And the point she made to me was that we spent years training him and that he ran away from us and now he's come here and that we want him back. We're the ones who paid for his development. And we'd like to request you let him go, and we want to employ him again. That's none of my business, actually. It's his choice. He can leave here and go there, or whatever. So I asked him, okay, what do you think? I've had this, this offer, and he said he will never go back there, not in a million years, not if it was the last job in the world, because he had not been treated sensibly there. He had been treated like a dog, like a dirt, like apprentice. And this woman is now asking me, please send him back, because the responsibility, we paid for his development. And she's an important lady in our community here, in the traditional printmaking community, so I can't just blow her off. But I told her the same story I told you, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. He's free to leave here if he wants anytime. I can't do anything to hold him, but I'm not going to send him back. And I told her what my experience had been, that during his time here, he had grown and matured, and that treating someone like a human being is far more important than counting obligations, and that because you paid for his training, And she nodded and whatever and left, and she's cold to me now, whatever, too bad. There's stuff that's important and there's stuff that's not important, and so be it, And her way of thinking, I don't know, I just don't even want to talk about it, so whatever. It's not inherent to Japan, I think. Any system where there's traditional craft and there's apprenticeships and young people coming in, and the problem with it is that in the old days, things were really sometimes quite abusive. Again, I think this is perhaps not just Japan. In any craft situation or in any apprentice situation, the apprentices are not respected, of course. It's sit in the corner, make tea, do the cleaning up and run errands, and when you're ready, we'll do stuff. So the people who now are the leaders of such workshops, they definitely have the feeling that, well, I got it given to me when I was a kid, so man, I'm going to do the same thing, So they pass down the brutality. They pass down the lack of respect for human beings, and that's the way it was done to me, so that's the way we're going to do it, And that's the way that workshop was thinking and operating. And they didn't think it was wrong. For them, it was just normal. I was beaten up, so I'm going to beat this guy up. But I can't get that. I can't dig that. Human societies evolve and change. And if all of us always just did it the way it was done to us before, give me a break. Would you be back in the trees, So, no, she didn't get him. Or I gave him his freedom. Of course, he's free to do what he wants. So he didn't go back. And so be it, And of course, I think I'm right and she's wrong, but we all, in our own minds, have that viewpoint, don't we? So, okay, coming to the end of this corner here, and I do have to get busy with other jobs here, so we'll finish off these dots and then sign off in a minute. So, and I got a double problem here, and as we've talked about before, when I'm at the end of a session, whether it's cameras or not, doesn't matter. When I'm at the end, I know I'm going to be gone a few minutes. It's the most dangerous part. It's really easy. And I'm compounding right now because this is a very brittle piece of the wood. You can see the dark color, so it's really liable to chip here. We're going to have to do a repair session on camera at some point, so somewhere along the line it's going to chip, and we'll use that as our excuse. This is rock hard right here, rock hard. Okay, there we go, last corner. I got it out without splitting, without chipping. Cut too deeply there, but that's not a factor. Okay, it's 9:30. Thanks again for following along. Interesting or boring, I don't know, whatever. As I mentioned earlier, some of you might not have caught it, I'm archiving all these things. I'm storing them on a drive, and at some point we'll try and pull and pick and edit highlights so that when this print is finished, we will have a really nice highlight reel of how this thing was made. Maybe, make a 1-hour presentation or something, I don't know. Okay, the plan today is it's Friday. I'm not sure how busy the shop will be this afternoon. If it's okay, these guys are handling things well. If there's no customers, I'll do a European time zone session. I'll do a session here at 5:30 Japanese time today. And then other than that, I should be back here tomorrow morning, same time, same station, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock Japanese time. Okay, thank you again. Signing off. I'll be very much interested to read the chat. If there's anything interesting in there, I'll have a look at it later. I read everything. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow or tonight. Stop streaming.